anything less than an obscene amount of late game threats, I'm not really sure how you're supposed to fend off that kind of this kind of value, which is maybe why we've seen the Druid actually banned away again, you know, from SuperFake.
Yeah, I agree. Like, Druid does seem to hit both check marks in terms of how to beat this deck. It can go toe-to-toe in terms of threats, but I would imagine if this deck, you know, is up against a more threat-dense version of itself, it can then switch to just, I will burn you to death with Mask over and over again. But you can't really do that to Druid either, because they're going to have way too much health on board soaking it up, and they're going to have 1,000,000 armor from repeated Moon Touch Diamond from Yashiraj as well. So as the series develops, I think that Druid ban does start to make more and more sense. Of course, SuperFake and Fled would have been doing, I'm sure, multiple reps of both of their matchups going into this as they prep this lineup together. And since they prep the lineup together, I'm sure they know the intricacies of the matchups inside and out at this point. I trust them to have made the right decision. In terms of bans, do I trust them to have made the right decision in terms of actually bringing this deck to the tournament?
Yes.
Yes.
Fixed. Okay, and speaking of fixed, I think I've fixed my camera. Stay tuned to find out. You have to wait till the game's over. But yeah, we are going to get into it now, and I can give my full focus to this matchup. And already getting off to a...
As can your camera, apparently.
Yay, good work. With the Wildfire into just a selection of minions, something else this deck does, and something you'll be more used to if you're used to seeing like regular ping mage, is it kind of does just play a minion curve. So you can actually end up being a weirdly minion-based aggressive deck in some matchups, or in just some pan-outs of opening hands.
Yep. But I think this is going to be the biggest test for this kind of deck, is what do you do against a deck that fairly reliably just OTKs you on turn 8 or 9, right? Like, can you actually compete with that in terms of speed? I think that is going to be the big problem. I think if you're going to answer that, your answer is that minion curve that Raven's talking about, because you can play just decent-sized minions every turn. It ramps up very quickly when you get into Mukla and Cairn Bardov, which I'm going to break down when I say the names of the cards that are in this deck, because they just shouldn't be in Hearthstone decks, but they are.
Also, as well, very important, I'm sorry if I was messing with my camera and you've already mentioned this or spoken about this, but Mutinous is in this deck as well.
I did not cover that, no.
And that's, again, I think, as time goes on, if the meta keeps similar to how it is right now, Mutinous will just be a factor in more and more decks, I think. Because I think the downside of having it in some matchups is completely outweighed by potentially just sniping Kaz, sniping key combo cards, with how many Mizaki Mage, OTK Warlock, Kaz Druids, Control Warriors with Kaz in as well. I think the just overall value of Mutinous itself is so high at the moment, it's getting difficult to not bring it.
Jarla finding the safety rod, both now in hand. But he is set up nicely for the mid-game for the way this is going. It should, if uninterrupted, be a pretty fast progression. There is, of course, double Rustrot Viper in the deck for SuperFake. Of course, because this contains every card in Hearthstone.
Yep.
And we have, of course, talked a lot already, it feels like, in a very short weekend so far about, you know, potential ways to play around the threat of double Viper decks when you're playing Rune Mithril Rod, whether you just jam it, whether you wait until turn 8 and do like a combined Rod backfire thing to at least get one proc on a bunch of key cards. But we'll see, again, a pretty crucial decision point here for Jarla, and whether the addition of a second Rod in his hand changes that equation in either direction.
Yeah, it's definitely a tricky one. I think something that's got a lot of work still to be put in is how you manage these awkward matchups with double Viper. But we'll see how Jarla does approach it. I can't help but get distracted by SuperFake's camera.
Yep.
I'm gonna have to like cut out a little square of paper just to put it over there when he's playing, because I do enjoy it, but also I find myself just be like, what is he doing? Like, I'm supposed to be providing like something to the viewers, and I just keep getting distracted.
That's his anti-rod finger, Raven. That's what he's waving right now.
Oh, I thought I'd recognized it.
He is casting the opponent has no rod incantation, and it appears to have worked.
Does also have those Drakefire amulets, which are pretty cool as well. Not only super endgame value, but also just tradable, right? So he could actually, even if a rod came down, he could go fishing twice this next turn, right? And still try and get it.
Yeah, true. And then if he draws Viper, he could trade to look for Viper again with the Viper.
He could just Viper high five.
Oh man, this is damage plus damage equals damage coming up fairly soon here.
Yeah. Coin to go for Mask, not this turn obviously, but say let's say Coin Mask next turn and then Parrot game. Like, seems pretty decent.
It's the next untitled Goose game. Parrot game.
Yeah. No waves can sink this ship.
Just what we needed. Another mask.
A little bit surprised he didn't start with cycling the Drakefire. Even just one.
I think so. There's branching paths either way, right? Because if you play the Evoker first and hit Wildfire, you can just spend your last 1 mana on the other Wildfire that you draw, right? So you could fit it in that way, which you might consider be better than cycling. But obviously, if you cycle, there's other options that you can draw, yada yada, like Reckless Apprentice, for example. Maybe you'd be happier to cycle Drakefire into Reckless Apprentice. But I think there's arguments either way. I don't think it's strictly right or wrong.
Yeah. And I think what I was thinking about as well, if you shuffle it in first, you might draw it and get 10 armor. How about that?
True. Yeah. I mean, I guess that is also a very important argument. Is I don't actually think you want to draw Drakefire off the Evoker, right? So shuffling it back in creates the possibility that you draw it. And like, yeah, 10 armor's nice. 10 armor's nice, but I don't think you actually want to draw that. I think you'd rather have Wildfire or Mask in that situation. So I do think the more we talk about it, this way it makes the most sense.
Rather have Mask? Saul, he already had 3. Does he need 4?
Maybe, yeah. They do also hit minions if there's minions in play. They don't always all go face.
Minions in play against this Warlock. There is just Cairn as well, which again continues to tickle me. That just, like I said, the big 3 of those tech cards in the deck does just make me laugh. But it is, again, a pretty sticky minion. Oh, there's one of them. It's so good. How can anyone not think this is the best deck ever created in Hearthstone history?
A Hearthstone Grandmaster with a 61% win rate in Masters Tours just drew a big game hunter live on stream. This is not the example we should be setting. Would someone please think of the children, Raven?
No, we're doing it. I love it.
Okay.
But yeah, it's going to be pretty simple here. SuperFake not too happy with that because now the health is above 20. Which is really what he was aiming at with the potential double parrots he's got. Also the card draw into reduction. Still not grabbing hold of the Viper. Yeah.
Jazz hands!
Yeah. What can repel this Warlock combo? I know! Jazz hands, go! Oh.
Yeah, this is the problem, right? Is that SuperFake from here is still going to need 3 turns now instead of 2 to be able to get this lethal through, which is probably going to be way too slow at this point. Now the discounts are flying. No Vipers found. And I will say, obviously, we've had fun testing this deck, so we're sort of being naturally supportive. But I do have significant criticisms with playing a deck tech this heavily with incredibly limited card draw, right? Like, I get it, the tech cards are largely tradable these days, so if you draw one in a situation you don't want it, you can put it back. However, that doesn't solve the opposite problem, which is what good is putting tech cards in your deck if you can't draw them consistently, right? If you need to draw a Viper, Viper being tradable does not help you do that. Right. So if you're going to, like, he has got through half his deck here, to be fair, and he has 2 Vipers in his deck, so he's entitled to have drawn one. That is fine. However, you know, it's got to be said, there is a lot of tech flying in various directions in this deck, and I think you are starting to see a little bit of that problem now.
Yeah, if you are going to queue this on ladder, you do have to trust the heart of the cards on this one, because you do need some help. Yeah, I think the only, like, hard actual, like, tech to draw is the Talon, right? To just draw the Mordresh.
Yeah, and the Evoker, the Evoker draws spells, it doesn't draw Vipers or big game hunters, etc. Like, you don't really have that much ability to draw the actual tech cards. In fact, a lot of the time you're thinning out your deck with other tutored draws and leaving all those tech cards in the bottom of your deck specifically, which is a bit weird.
Yeah, SuperFake unhappy with this because you are afraid when the Owl is just played out because you know with the reductions from the weapon that you've seen from Jarla and the size of the hand.
There's just already 10 cards in his opponent's hand.
Oh, this is perfect, Saul. What are you on about? This is a Mukla with 0 downside. It's perfect.
Well, it's a Mukla with no downside in terms of giving your opponents bananas. Oh. It does have a significant downside in that you've put a Mukla in your deck.
Look at this turn. BGH Mukla? What? This is the best turn I've ever seen in Hearthstone Grandmasters. I'm surprised SuperFake's not already locked it in. Look at that Owl thinking he's so cool with his high attack and low health. Oh, I'll tell you a story about an old card, Mr. Owl.
I mean, it's the most thematic big game hunting I've ever seen in my life. He's literally hunting and killing a giant freaking owl. Boo.
Lame. Oh, did he leave the owl up? Oh no, you got it all, okay. Didn't take the 8 as well to the face, which is whether that's a positive or a negative. You can work that one out. Normally doesn't matter. 47, not quite enough health. There is no Tamsin though, unless I'm being blind.
There is not. He has 7 times 8 here. Right, because he has enough to kill with the School Spirits, right? If I'm not.
Oh, with the yeah. The Moag doesn't die. Can you kill the Moag?
It's 48 even without the Moag dying, which is 1 more than he needed, I believe. I think it was 30 plus 17.
Oh, yeah. Right. Sure.
1 overkill. Yeah, he's chilling.
It is one thing that can trip you up. Sometimes I've definitely done it where you actually you can't kill the Moag, and then you look at your hand and realize you didn't actually save anything to kill the Moag off, and then you're in big trouble in certain outcomes. But yeah, that was enough. Very nice game there from Jarla. Unlucky that the best deck ever took a loss there. But it was probably one of the matchups where I was definitely going to see a loss. And I really do think when you look at just the overall way this matchup is going to go, it's going to come down to this warrior. And I think it was very likely it always was going to, honestly, Sottle.
Yeah, for sure. Like, this is the Jarla way. This is the way he's always played these kind of series. I know we're going to see various players who, like, when they've got a targeted deck in their lineup, they just jam it 3 times and just try and get it out of the way. Like, Blyze is very much from that school of thought. We've seen a series where he just queued up the deck with, like, 10% win rate, played it 3 times, conceded on turn 5 3 times, went back to bed, right? Like, that's totally fine if you want to do it that way, but this is always the way that Jarla is going to want to do it, which is get his kind of free wins out of the way first, then settle in for the grind and trying to solve the problem is how he's going to pick up a win with this Control Warrior instead. And this is, yes, even though the series says 2-0, this is now just the beginning for Jarla's Control Warrior, or a Charge Warrior, to be fair, to pick up a victory in this one.
And I will say, even if SuperFake loses this series, something he can be proud of is, I think that was the longest the producers has ever kept zoomed on a camera during a replay ever. So that's you know, something he can put on the old CV.
I've checked with the Guinness Book, and that was the longest recorded bout of protracted jazz hands that the world has ever seen.
Hey, there we go. Do wild things on this show. Here, though, we are checking out Jarla's Charge Warrior. It does have, of course, tons of control aspects, but it does play that sort of finish the game now combo with Galvanger and the mixture of Faceless Manipulators or Battleground Battlemaster, or however you want to build it to do whatever damage you need. It does mean, though, that Jarla's going to be slightly more inconsistent because he is playing this charge package and this charge combo, and this is where you start to see potential armor gain like SuperFake had in the previous game actually be very important, because if Jarla can't combo, probably just doesn't win. Like, it's fairly straightforward.
Also, yes. And we've seen Jarla honestly go through a series of rough games with this, where even though he got the win in the end when he was faced with Warrior on the other side, the other 2 games I believe he played with the Warrior, he just got in that situation where he was just drawing half of his combo every game, which is the exact amount of your combo you don't want to draw every game. You'd like to draw all of it or none of it for as long as possible, because if you draw very few parts of it and then draw it all in one clump later, perfect. That means your hand's been full of nice, juicy removal and armor gain the entire game. But this way, if you sit around with half combo pieces in your deck, not only is that going to limit the amount of other cards that you have to shield slam and AoE, various other things, it's also going to mean that you are trapped with a Galvanga or a Faceless in your hand that is just going to get chomped by a Mutinous at some point if SuperFake can find it.
We might see peak Hearthstone play in this specific game as well, of a tempo BGH. That's the next stage of evolution.
Man, that felt terrible. Like, back when Big Game Hunter cost 3 and was actually played in decks, that even felt bad then in a lot of situations, let alone when you're having to pay 4 entire mana for it.
Be really interested to see. Obviously, it'll depend on the next draw or two, but what SuperFake does with this Viper, because this is a good deck to Viper against, right? To be able to kill the weapons. But as you rightly pointed out in the previous game, the lack of card draw is a pain right now because his hand is not great. He has Parrot, but nothing to actually copy. And then that's it. Never mind.
Yes! Now that's what I'm talking about. This is how you find creative solutions to problems where you are not going to win by conventional means. Bulwark of Azanoth, push the 1. Let's go. I am here for it.
You still trade the Parrot? God, I'm just getting my animals mixed up now. The Viper?
Viper just look at it. Sorry, SuperFake just looking at this like, wait, what? What just happened here?
Oh. Because this weapon doesn't matter, right?
It matters less than Outrider's Axe, I would say, for sure, yes.
Yeah.
Because as I was saying, kind of in the lead into this, you play Mask of Cthulhu like 20 times during a game. Like, Bulwark is just not difficult for you to deal with. I think, honestly, that's part of what's motivated Jarla to play this now. He knows how useless this card is. So if he can get that situation dealt with, I think what we found here is a situation that both players have thought about and both are happy with the outcome that's occurred. One of them's wrong. We just don't know which one it is, you know?
Well, again, I was just wondering whether, even though it would be a bit funky mana-wise, if he could start with trading the Viper, and at worst, he gets to Wildfire and stack that this turn. You know what I mean? Just spend the mana on that. Oh, okay. That helps.
He played a Spider Tank this turn that he gets to hit his opponent with. It's not bad, right? Like,
oh, yeah, I'm not saying I hate it.
At the very least.
Yeah, I'm definitely not saying I hate it. Just a reminder, of course, only because we've not seen it yet, but Modresh is in the deck for SuperFake, the Ping Mage finisher, and especially with Bulwark gone, that's just 10 damage, right, out of nowhere. And there's a semi-tutor effect because he is playing Talon as well. So, again, these pings are important to start stacking. They're not there for, like, just a removal tool or anything like that. Like, they are going to start stacking up, and it's just another threat that Jarla's going to have to consider. And again, he's going to have to race. Jarla's already on 22. Yes, he can gain a lot of armor with this deck if he draws it, but he's on 22. Modresh does 10, and there's like 4 masks in the deck, basically. So Jarla can't play this like a control deck because it's just not good enough in the matchup. He's coming in clutch as well for the Outrider Axe draw for SuperFake.
Yeah, the freeze from the Snow Flurries, I think, is another reason why. Yeah, just a wag of the finger from SuperFake. Aha! No, you fool! You thought you were going to be able to attack with this axe, but you were frozen. And then I drew the Viper and made thinking emoji face, and now you are sad. Now you will clap. Clapping is not the correct response, Jarla. Finger guns is! Yes, aha! What's happening, Raven?
I told you, it's just the best deck.
It's about to be closing in on a 50% win rate, so looking pretty good so far.
Oh, yeah. Jarla can clean this up, though, with Shield Shatter and does get to armor up as well as draw a weapon here. And hope that there's not a sneaky third weapon destruction in the deck. I wouldn't put it past SuperFake.
Yeah, he just magically transforms Grey Sage Parrot into the other parrot and just repeats the Viper battle cry with it. Yeah.
Ooh, okay. 5 left.
5 left, yeah. 3 more pings at this rate. Or just a Reckless Apprentice off the top next turn, that'll do it.
A little bit surprised he didn't go Coin Mask there.
I was too, yeah, because it kind of takes those extra turns anyway, but I think he wants to weave in those pings, right? Because if he goes Coin Mask, he's not pinging this turn. If he then goes Grey Sage Parrot, he's not pinging that turn either, because that'd be a 7-mana turn where you're spending 6.
Yeah,
so.
whereas this will be like Mask, Parrot, Ping, Coin, Ping, Mordresh, right?
Yes, exactly.
I think that works out.
What it looks like. Yep. I mean, if the opponent even lives that long.
Yeah, yeah, of course, yeah. So 8 mana. There is effectively the combo in the hand, but it's too expensive right now, right?
It is, yeah.
That's just 10 armor, and we can see another mask. So we know Jarla has to play something here to not just die. And it has to be something that actually soaks up more than 2, right? Because of the ping as well.
Yeah. And, like, he'll know it, right? Like, when we were testing this, you caught onto this very quickly, that once the first mask happens, mask is happening again every turn from then on, and you have to play around that. Yeah, Jarla knows.
Oh yeah, Lorinda just letting us know that this deck was this mage was actually 4-1 before today's start, with its 1 loss coming from Owllock, apparently. So again, close to what we've seen.
Raven, less of admittedly very interesting stats, more talk about Big Game Hunter, please.
Big Game Hunter.
It's going to happen, and you nearly missed it. I'm just saying.
I know. Why do I try and bring some good stats and useful information into my work when I can just shout Big Game Hunter?
Oh, it's working, Raven. It's doing the job. It's performing the function for which it was designed to do.
God, I'm going to check deck list for a second here.
Go on.
Never mind, we're safe. So I was looking at whether he actually should ping his Big Game Hunter there, but this version does not run Rancor. That's one of the cuts for the combo. Just because if he pinged his own, he still progresses towards Mordresh, and he can still coin ping Mordresh the turn after to push the damage he missed.
Fair. I think even with the threat of Rancor, I might still do it, though, because like you still have ping face. Like, so you'd ping face that turn, that's 2 extra damage, and then you have ping face Grey Sage Parrot the next turn anyway, which is 12 more. So that line already gets back the 4 armor that you'd be giving to your opponent in that situation. So I think it would still be worth either way.
But if it was Barov Rancor.
Ah, now you're talking.
Think about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just so much damage.
13 Wildfire is lethal. Buckler is not lethal.
Wait, doesn't this just activate Mordresh?
Oh, Mordresh, yeah, sorry.
Okay.
I was still counting in Grey Sage Parrot.
But for a second then, I was like, I think he's pinged enough, but if Salt's this, maybe he hasn't. But no, yeah, Mordresh is just the way to go there. Clean game there from SuperFake, and however much we saw Mage potentially struggle previously, I think the job it was built for, it has just shown us doing it very well.
Absolutely, yeah. And we are, you know, you're having some fun in favor of the deck. I'm having some fun at the expense of the deck. But serious mode activated, yeah, not really a lot else matters than how it performs in that kind of matchup that it's designed to perform in. And yes, that was pretty much the deck running at peak performance. with you know, Viper on curve, second Viper for exactly when the Outrider's Axe appeared, Mask into Parrot, Mordresh coming out. Like, everything that he would have wanted, he got in the top 10 cards of his deck, basically. Look at that deck counter on the right-hand side. 18 cards still remaining. But a lot of the other cards that you can sub in there, Ken Bloodhoof, the other Parrot, the other Mask, the Jaina Hero card, like, all of those things would have had very similar effects on the game overall. That's just kind of what the deck is built to do overall. But now we see something that I'm genuinely going to have to see to believe. The fact that apparently, according to ladder stats, this Pirate Warrior has an 80% win rate matchup against Control Warrior here.
Did you check it versus Control or Charge?
I believe it's still on my screen, so I will double check. That is Control Warrior specifically. Because
I'd argue, if those stats are correct, I would even argue it's even better against Charge Warrior.
Yeah.
Because there's less removal, there's less armor gain. Like I said, Rancor not in the deck for Jarla. And is Jarla going to be able to chill for that long with less removal against Pirate Warrior to piece together a relevant amount of damage from combo? Yeah. I want to say no. Again, not a matchup I've really seen a lot in my own experience. But yeah, I mean, I would put it out there that it might be tougher because of the combo pieces.
Yeah, so just for full context, you can draw from this what you want. It's 160 game sample size, Diamond through Legend, 86% win rate, and the deck it's sampling is like core cards, Kazakhstan, Rakara, yes, Outrider's Axe, like that archetype of the deck. So yeah.
Jarla getting off to a good start, though, has the Bulwark for emergencies, but I think most importantly has Outrider's Axe. There's, of course, the Viper we can see in SuperFake's hand as an answer, but at least just from Jarla's side of things, he's drawing cards, he's pulling the right cards, and he's making progress. I do wonder if it's going to be another Bulwark play, so get it out, push the one.
Get it out, poke the one on the minion, even.
Yeah.
Get it up for Minefield. Don't actually hate that because 4 health minions come down alongside this pretty often, right? Next turn. How many 4 health 3-drops are in Pirate Warrior? 6 if you include the Rust Drop Viper, and technically South Sea Captain as well, because South Sea Captain would add the 1 extra health to still make 5. So
yeah,
so 8 if you include Viper and South Sea Captain. Yeah.
Oh, Tempo Viper. That can also help with Minefield, technically, right? If it can make a trade.
Yeah, true.
You like Shiver Coin Cargo here? Because generally with this deck, I don't like holding the coin because you very quickly get to a point where there's nothing to coin out.
Yeah.
Whereas this, you could clean kill the 3/4 and put down another minion that's a bit of a threat and ticks the box against the combo, right? For Jarla, you're gaining armor.
Yeah. Yeah, I do like it. I'm just trying to work out whether I like it more than just coin, coin Sword Eater instead, which is a similar thing. You don't get to push the 2, but you just land a 2/5 and a weapon instead of a 2/4, which I think it's just a little, like over the course of 2 turns, it's more tempo. Over the course of 1, what you described is obviously a little bit immediately more because you're pushing damage and adding a second minion, but I think this adds up to a little bit more initiative over the course of 2. It does play into Minefield more directly though, which I suppose is the biggest issue with it.
But again, as is often the case with this type of warrior, you just keep chugging along, right? There's just always minions, always pressure for at least the first, 5 turns of the game. Maybe you can run dry a little bit in certain outcomes after turn 5, but generally speaking, there's always minions to play.
I need a plan.
Faceless Manipulator, the Cargo Guard. Gain 3 armor. Call it a day.
Not great, is it?
I genuinely do not know what the line is here. You got 2 shield slams in your hand and no real chance of gaining armor, as you can see it right now. Like, you could try and play Bulwark to try and stack some armor. You could try and play Outrider's Axe to try and draw 2 armor gain cards instead, but you know both of them are incredibly vulnerable to Rustrot Viper, which your opponent is playing 2 copies of in their deck.
Yeah, I was looking at the Bulwark play to gain armor, but the fact that the Whetstone's the weapon, right? It's just, oh, it's the worst possible weapon in the game for that to be against the Bulwark of Aznath.
It means that even if Viper isn't in hand, like if Cannoneer was, then that basically deals with the Bulwark straight up as well. Jarla's having a bad time.
Yeah.
There's a dead combo piece in hand.
I know I've talked about this, but this is one of the reasons why I've been really switched off this deck a lot, because I found myself in positions like this where you just can't get hold of any specific thing you need, and why the actual heavier control version, in a lot of situations for me at least, feels better, because like 27 of or 28 of your cards are control cards, and then you just draw your 2 end games, which you can normally survive to even if you have to like naturally slowly draw them, worst case. So it does feel a lot better. You have a lot less dead card potential draws.
Jarla desperately trying to scramble to some way to activate some of these removal cards in hand, but the weird thing now is that it almost makes sense to just use 1 shield slam now to try and protect the Bulwark for longer so that you can get the other shield slam to do something worthwhile. But it looks like Jarla is leaning towards just poking into the 2-1 here. This will eat up 2 weapon charges, 1 for the swing, 1 for the damage. We'll leave him with 2 on the next turn, which means this Bulwark is going to be immediately destroyed by just what he can see on the board.
Really tough, isn't it? Because actually in the deck, he has so many cards that will gain him armor. I think that's what he's gone for, right? He has double heavy plate, he has double frozen buckler that will help him out, which massively increase the power of shield slam. He does just have to get to them, though.
Good order here. Cannoneer first, swing. 2 damage will get absorbed, 2 damage will go through, but then importantly, he gets that chunky 4 attack to be able to go face at the end.
Gotta get through me.
I like this as well. You've just seen some struggling turns from your opponent. Play the Cargo Guard, right? Start stacking even more armor to make it as unlikely as possible that you die, because one of the reasons Jarla may look like he's struggling is because he's got loads of combo pieces, right? And he just needs the mana to kick off with it. Why not just start stacking as much armor as you can? Quite clean enough to land Rakara this turn, right? Which could be a problem.
Could it, though?
Oh, wait. Sorry, that was just the damage. Sorry, I thought he was on Rakara. Never mind.
But even if it was Rakara, Jarla cannot spend 7 mana on Mutinous in this position.
Of course he can. Of course he can. The moral victory, okay?
There are many, many things wrong with what you just said, Raven, and I have a PowerPoint presentation to go through them one by one. There is that heavy plate, finally.
The buckler as well. That's a ton of armor this turn if he wants it.
It is.
Actually, though, I mean...
No Shatter, though.
Yeah, is the perfect out to actually cycle the heavy plate for Shatter? Has to be, right?
Maybe. Yeah, I don't hate it.
I guess this is kind of doing the same thing. Like, draw first if you want. Oh, that's not going to do anything, is it? There's a double shield slam, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
Double shield slam, then minefield.
You can still go slam, slam, minefield if you want, yeah. Might be the line. Don't land the heavy plate anymore this turn that way, but what are you gonna do?
We could. Oh no. I'd go like halfway with double shield slam and then frozen buckler to feel ultra safe. Because obviously if he leaves up the 2-4, yes, he's taking 2 damage that he could have saved, but he's also gaining way more armor in case there's any burst damage from hand.
Hiya! Ah, perfection. Really? Are you sure there's things to think about this turn, SuperFake? Are you sure?
I honestly...
Alright, he's just putting the attack on the 3-3 instead of the Rakara.
Okay, that's fine. Because if it was anything but that, I'd be like, I have no clue. I'm supposed to know these things, but I have no clue what he's considering here, because that, anything but this turn would make no sense.
5 armor disappearing for Jarla. Win rate disappearing for Jarla at this point as well.
It's just not good enough, is it?
This hand absolutely does not do it, as far as I'm concerned. So he needs to start drawing. I agree. Going with this method first. I think holding on to the heavy plate to actually use as a heavy plate gives him a few more outs. Yeah, sure.
It's still painful, but you could argue that if he goes heavy plate shatter, then he makes it more killable next turn. I mean,
I think he has to just Galangar the 7/7, right?
Ooh. He just loses, right?
Yes.
I think if he kills, if he just armors up, he doesn't strictly lose. Whereas I think if he plays Galvangar, he does lose.
Okay, I mean, I think that might be very fair, yeah.
There's like minimal chances he's going to survive this, but he cannot win without Galvangar combo.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Okay. The best pirate summon, combined with definitely not the best weapon right now.
Any reason to deal 5 damage to it to draw a card right now?
Wouldn't hate it. Like I said, without Rancor being anything to worry about, I don't see why not. It also
You'll get the second Viper off the top, right? There's still one left.
Also might help when you think of potential faceless issues, right?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, he's gonna go.
I like it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good one. And the problem here is, I guess, I guess the drawback, even though we can see it could have happened anyway, is that there's a draw coming from the weapon for Jarla. But I think if he draws with the weapon, he takes a minimum of 3, which means he would have to armor up in some respect, which then means he'd have to spend mana, which then also means that he wouldn't have enough mana for the combo even if he had the cards.
Their weak point.
I think all those things are true.
I don't see it.
Armor, yeah.
Has to go digging again. He's had this on 3 consecutive turns now where the current hand is just not doing it, and that is the most BM time Uppercutting class to appear, and I think Jarla's Goose is cooked for a second time this series on the Warrior.
It's all over.
That is it.
Yeah, not going to be enough. Too costly with that 5-mana cutting class and that SuperFake. So, okay. I've won my 2 games so far. I'm beating up this Warrior. Let's make it a 3rd. And you can see what we said, what feels like a while back now, is this is how the series was likely to play out. You could see from SuperFake's lineup that he is trying to beat up on Warrior and slower sort of control-y style decks. And that's exactly what he's doing. Yeah, he kind of got stomped by Jarla's first 2, the Demon Hunter and the Warlock. But who cares? Like, if you win 3-2, it's the same as winning 3-0, right? You've won and you've moved on. It's all that matters.
Yeah, until Lorinda starts keeping track of your overall game win rate, and then people start competing for that as well. But that's stupid. That's not how Hearthstone works. Conquest is almost a format which is kind of designed for you to win 3-2, right, in the way that things happen, because these kind of reverse sweeps are very, very common in the way that target lineups are set up. And if you build a lineup that consistently targets one deck and they get wins with everything else, then good job. It's kind of working as intended, and as much fun as we've had at the expense of Big Game Hunter and Ken and Mukler and everything else that is in the Mage, the fact that there's a Pirate Warrior hanging around in his lineup, so far so good for SuperFake's lineup. He is back to 2-2. The Warrior is being successfully targeted, and now he gets to run Alignment Druid into this Warrior.
Yeah, one of the surprise decks coming out of the Masters Tour last weekend as well. With all of the Druids, especially in the first week, flying around on ladder, Celestial Alignment was one I did not think I was going to see during the MT, but we did, and it did actually pretty well. I think it was in 2 players' lineups in the top 16. I can't quite remember. I know it was in at least 1, which was pretty impressive. So we'll see how this pans out. And just based on this being Alignment Druid, do you think this is any better or worse for Jarla than the other decks we've already seen from SuperFake for this Warrior?
I mean, they're all really, really bad, to be clear. But the reason why Alignment Druid in particular is being brought to the front in this one is because of the card To the Front specifically, which minions cost 2 less, brackets but not less than 1, right, is what the card says. So yep. There you go. Thank you, Hearthstone gods, for that delightful demonstration. So that means under Celestial Alignment conditions, To the Front is useless because the minions all cost 1 already, and you are just going to have to climb up manually to that 4 mana or so that you need to actually activate all your stuff to play out. So it can buy a ton of time to resist the combo, let alone the fact of what Alignment does normally against a deck where you're playing massive threats and they're playing combinations of removal to deal with your threats. Once you've jammed Alignment, good luck with that, right? Because I'm going to cheat out a bunch of mana with Nourish and Ramp and everything else, play like a bunch of 10/10s, and then you're going to have to respond to that with 1 mana on the other side. So, yeah, I think this is probably about as miserable as every other matchup we've seen Jarla play with this deck so far.
Especially when you stack on as well that Jarla's version of this deck is only playing a single Brawl, which is normally your only go-to initial hope on that first turn, right? If your opponent's popped off, you've got the 1 mana to Brawl, you Brawl the big board, and then hope you can somehow recover after that. But without, or with it being less likely to even have a Brawl at that point, there's almost nothing you can actually do. So, yeah, going to be an uphill climb. We see SuperFake as well, a fan of the truly majestic Druid portrait.
Hazelbark? No, I don't. He's
oh, sorry. Yeah. So, at the wrong screen. I like Hazelbark's the wallpaper you have on your home screen, isn't it? So maybe even on your phone.
It's genuinely the only skin I've ever used. Sorry, apart from not Anduin, I don't know what my pre-skin is. Tyrande, right? Is that what I use?
That is one person who is not Anduin, yes. Correct.
Those are the only skins that I use. I got Hazelbark, it's amazing, and then I just got rid of Anduin as soon as I could. That is all I have ever done with skins in Hearthstone. I
chose Hazelbark because they're amazing, and then I chose not Anduin because they're not Anduin.
Correct. He's a dweeb.
Hey, I'm using Mecha Anduin, which is pretty cool.
Freaking mecha dweeb.
So far, though, SuperFake is starting to ramp up and get towards the ability to play Celestial Alignment. I think his hand, like, okay, here's a question. Does SuperFake have to wait for the big pop-off Celestial Alignment setup? Or do you think he can just go Celestial Alignment early, and because he has Cenarian Ward and some card draw, of course, he can actually just do enough this early in the game to make it worthwhile?
Yeah, I think the latter is probably true. Again, we are a little bit fish out of water in terms of the matchup in general, but you know, my intuition would tell me that you could just jam alignment early in this spot and be absolutely fine. You don't really need to wait for any particular setup going on.
Is that going to be a ramp? Yep, for SuperFake.
Ooh, okay.
Survival, Smite. I mean, just coin Solar Cenarian next turn doesn't seem that bad. Like, forget about alignment. Like, that's just a good turn.
Yeah, that's fair. Helps you dump the hand as well, which is something that I think SuperFake is very interested in here.
And back in not Druid land, the Jarla on a measly 5 mana. Having to make something work. Does have card draw, though, and I feel like it's one of the things he has missed a lot in these games we've seen him play both yesterday and today with this warrior, is I feel like we never see a good cutting class so far, right?
Yeah,
it's
true.
never been like on curve, you know, like a turn 5 cutting class, for example. After you've equipped the Outrider Axe. It's never really felt like Jarla's got there and really got the cycle going. It's going to be difficult to get cycle from the actual weapon in this matchup, of course, because Druid, or at least this form of Druid, does not have the habit of playing a lot of killable minions that have 3 health. But just the fact he has cutting class gives him options at least.
All right, we're sticking with the plan. Bloom does create some interesting possibilities. But I imagine the sequence of turns here is going to be something like Coin Solar Cenarian and then a Moonlit turn where you also try and dump whatever you're Moonlitting and then go into the Malagos turn instead. Yep. Looks fairly good to me.
Yeah, I like this. Even though it is a Celestial deck, even though you can do some crazy pop-offs with it, this is just a good turn, so do a good turn. Or at least it was, until he got those.
I mean, so I'm very confused about what thinking emoji means to SuperFake, because he made it when he drew the absolute nuts Viper off the top, and then also made it when he Giga low-rolled the Cenarian Ward. So I'm getting very mixed signals.
You can think about good things and bad things, Sol.
That's true. Sorry, the horrible storm that's in my brain means that you can only think about bad things. I forget that other people experience happiness on a sometimes daily basis.
Will be important as well. It's still very early in the game, mana-wise, for Jarla, but he does have double to the front in hand. Wait, no,
yes.
I always do that.
No.
Cards are too similar. They're too. Look at them next to each other.
The thing is, like, when I look at the cards, as we have well established, I don't look at the art. So initially I look at the words. I'm like, okay, 1 Frozen Buckler, 1 to the front. But then when you say it, I do just very quickly eyes scan down. Like, yep, 2 blue cards. That makes sense. He's saying good words.
I do it so often. It's just someone make it like purple or something.
Yeah. Okay.
Moonlit
Tricky
into Anaconda, then go.
Yeah, I think it's a Moonlit turn for sure. If you don't get something ludicrously high value, then you just try and get something dumpable instead, something that you can maybe dump twice, although I'm pretty sure that gives you very limited options in this deck at this point. All right, well, now you just take a guff.
Yep. Doesn't mean you'll have the option to do the never-before-seen full turn.
Oh, even such a special flower.
Love it though, don't you?
Yeah.
What would you do without me, Sal? Let's be honest.
Be happier but make less money.
Oh, fair enough. I should probably leave. Oh, you got me there.
genuinely not sure if that's accurate or not. It might be exactly the other way around. Who knows?
Yeah. I'm going to choose to believe.
Yeah.
You know, Jarla does get hold of his brawl, so he does have the at least potential 1 turn's worth of answers. But it's how he actually ends the game, I think, is the problem, right? Because you've got to imagine SuperFake will have threats for days when he chooses to go off with the Celestial.
Mm-hmm. You see already 46 health now for SuperFake. You deal in 9/9 Wind Furies a lot of the time with this warrior combo, so 2 9/9 Wind Furies is 36 damage. You can see SuperFake already pulling out of range of that, even though Jarla is starting to amass some combo pieces as he's drawing through. Not even to mention the point made at the start that at any point SuperFake can just pull the trigger on Celestial Alignment and set Jarla back on, you know, a 4-turn waiting game to get that combo activated again.
Time to dilly-dally! No force on Azeroth.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal, isn't it? Rakara going to come down now and he can just punch the minion to the face, do two birds with one stone sort of thing, right? 5 damage to the face, minion's gone, no problem. Does help reduce some of this armor down, and the hero power will too, so that is something, right? Starts chipping away at the armor. But honestly, it's just... You start to realize that Jarla can potentially defend for a little bit, but how he actually wins just looks very, very difficult and pretty far away right now.
Yeah, agreed. 16 cards remaining. Anaconda still in there.
Also, I wonder if SuperFake even cares about playing Viper on this weapon. Like, is he more interested in keeping it for the Bulwark? So he can...
Yeah, I would
the charge minions,
so.
right?
Yeah.
Maybe even go for trading it now, just to try and get hold of something a little bit better.
Yeah, I can see that too. Right now, number one concern is that he's 10 cards in hand and doesn't have Anaconda currently, so he absolutely needs to dump something out right now, but that's no big deal. He can get rid of an Umbral Owl. Oh, what's the point in all this mana, SuperFake, if you're not going to spend it? Come on. You don't spend all your mana, you don't deserve it.
Taking this
Straight
mana
to bed
away.
with no mana crystals. Yeah. Parents have worked hard to put that mana on your table. The least you could do is use it. And other classic parenting slogans as well.
Slogan, the right word?
Slogan? Yeah, I don't know. Catchphrase!
Yeah.
When you were growing up, didn't your mum and dad have a catchphrase? What?
Only in the TV shows I watched. Yeah, though, Jarla just trying to work out what he can even do. I mean, is he at the point where he wants to try and mutinous something impactful? A lot of the minions in the deck are impactful, whether it's Malygos, Anaconda, Smite, for example. Like, you can remove some options away from SuperFake. He does go for it and hits the Malygos, but again, with SuperFake being so deep, relatively deep in his deck right now, with plenty of card draw, I don't even think he'll be overly upset about the Malygos getting destroyed versus what it could have been, right? If that Malygos was an Anaconda, if it was a Smite, I think that would feel a lot worse.
Oh, go. Is it go time? He does have Anaconda Celestial available straight away. 14 mana. Can get the combo ripped. Those Nourishes in hand will cost 0 straight away, so he can start cycling super hard. He is going to drop the Lunar Eclipse first, cheat some mana on the Luna. Doesn't really make a big difference. And now we are off to the races. See how far he can get with this, because there is an 8-13 on the other side of the board, which is a significant problem right now. But as long as he can get like solar survival kind of deal coming down with an owl, he should be fine.
I mean, he also had Scale of Onyxia survival there, right? Which would have been
That's true.
as well.
That is true. Yeah. There's the solar. Time is his only real enemy right now, and I think you can start to see on his face that time is putting a little bit of stress on him right now.
I honestly think as long as he just gets solar survival down, he's fine. Even if he whiffs everything else this turn.
Solar survival, one trade owl. I like that.
Yep.
As long as this all happens.
Yeah. I think he could even afford to leave the 8-10 up in a worst case scenario, as long as he got the...
High value trades, you don't have room for that out. Okay. My bad.
It is your bad.
Mm-hmm.
But now this is the issue, right? With the amount of health on board, SuperFake's done this to an extent, and especially with help from the scale of Onyxia, he's made a big board with actually using relatively few threats from his hand. It's like 3 cards and obviously the buffs. So even if this is brawled away, well, he still has tons of threats still left in the deck. He's still got the charge as well from Smite. He has used a Jerry Rig, though, which is something.
Yeah, using a Jerry Rig here, not for charge damage, could potentially come back to bite him. But yeah, obviously alignment has come down, so it is a 1-card punish here with the Brawl. It's the only thing that can really interact. Although, I mean, Shield Shatter can do bits because obviously it does have the discount. So you could potentially piece something together with Shield Shatter, but Brawl is the one that you're definitely most scared of seeing there.
Jarla really wants the one that's 1 health to live, right? So he can Shield Shatter it. Okay, doesn't get it. That means if Smite is drawn with the Germination, things were looking pretty good for SuperFake there.
Yeah, that's true. This is starting to look a tiny bit sketchy, though. Having held on to that Viper is definitely a good decision up until this point, because he could actually get into a world where he's getting locked out by Bulwark for like 40, 50 plus damage at this point. Yeah. I think he might just be in the business of Nourish to draw here, just to make sure he's securing the bag on that.
I'm actually wondering, unless I'm being stupid, couldn't he have hero power a Nourish then for ramp? Or would that not have made a difference? Oh, we got Bloom. Okay, never mind.
He just got Bloom, so okay, he can germinate the Mr. Smite, and then he's got 38. Yeah, this is absolutely fine.
Was working out if he could have got any more guaranteed value out of that turn, but who needs value when you've just won the game and won the series? And although the pressure was definitely on SuperFake there in that last game, it wasn't, you know, all smooth sailing. He was still doing very, very well, and the lineup has done its job. Sottle pretty overall convincingly just beating up Warrior, and Jarla just felt like he never even really got close to doing anything in that series with the Warrior. It just didn't even look like, oh, he was 1 card off or he needed that 1 more turn. He always needed multiple cards, multiple turns, multiple draws. You know, there was like, it never felt even close, which hats off to SuperFake, and by extension Fled, of course, that this lineup that just I didn't see coming in anyway seems to be doing its job very, very well.
Indeed, yeah. I think the only moment where potentially some weakness could have come is actually on this turn here. I think he wasted a bit of time at the start on like a decision as to whether to use a Luna or not before he started, which is a fairly irrelevant decision in the grand scheme of things. And he wasted like 20 seconds trying to work that out, and then made much more important decisions at the end in a much more high pressure situation because he was very low on time. It did create a weird world where maybe there was a fractional, infinitesimal chance that Jarla might have been able to lock the game out from there if he wasn't exactly dead at that point. But I still think SuperFake was an enormous favorite from the position he put himself in, and that starts with good lineup construction, as things often do in Hearthstone. Like generally, when we talk about, you know, great players, yes, they play the game maybe, you know, 1% better than other top players about them, but if someone is incredibly consistent, the reason for that is probably that they're just bringing the correct lineup to things over and over again. And when we talk about that, we usually talk about it in terms of just more standard decks that are teched very well. But this is more of an extreme outlier where players just have a good read on what they're going to run into and execute on a high-risk strategy very well. The America's broadcasters have talked about how Fled just doesn't play on Fridays. He either goes 0-2 or he goes 2-0. So they see him on Saturday or not at all. And that's just kind of emblematic of this style of risk-taking, this style of deck building, that you really try and gain an edge from